From KSMQ in southern Minnesota, this is Off 90.
Funding for Off 90 is provided in part by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota.
You definitely want art that appeals to your patient population, that's more uplifting than maybe depressing, that's maybe more enlightening than dark. When you walk into a facility, you're looking for things that are pleasing to the eye, that catch your attention, that refocus many of your concerns, particularly if you're coming in with a serious illness and need something a little bit more uplifting, friendly, and something that helps you through your particular situation.
When anybody sees my artwork, I really hope that it makes them smile. People have a very emotional connection with color, I feel. This work is called Foxtail, and it is obviously a very autumn-colored piece. The seasons are really inspirational to me. I'm a very warm weather type person. I love everything from the spring through the fall, and not so much the cold. It actually inspires me to create, I think, a lot of my very colorful pieces.
We had an initiative many years ago, but it was more commercialized, or poster art, and that art became old, worn, faded, and so it was time to replace it, and the discussion was, what do we replace it with? And we came up with the idea of supporting the local artists, because we are really a local provider. We talked internally about the local artist concept, and that was supported by our board. And then I began discussions with a local art gallery, Southeastern Minnesota Visual Arts, and started talking about the concept of what there was for local art, what we could work together on. And so we started working with the local SEMVA gallery.
Andrea Kostopoulos at the SEMVA gallery let us know that Olmsted was interested in purchasing some work from local artists, and I thought it was terrific. It was a wonderful idea.
Yes, they called, Lois Tiltera called and asked if there'd be somebody who was interested in helping find local artwork to put into their public facilities, their areas that are public. We accomplished much more than Lois could have ever imagined in 6 months of collecting art and getting it hung in their facilities for the public to see and enjoy and to be healed by.
This is one of our paintings that we purchased. It's by Andrea Kostopoulos. It's an original acrylic painting called Vast Ocean to the Great Star. And what we liked about it shows a lot of color, a lot of energy, vibrant, appeals to a wide variety of patients. SEMVA was a starting point for us. We have purchased art from them as well as local artists directly and other galleries in the area. So we have an art committee that helps pick the art. And so we try to keep that in mind. How would this appeal to patients? How would patients feel about this look, this feel of the art? We were a little concerned that patients may not accept some of the art, or may not accept the local nature, or may be indifferent to it, that we would go through all this work and effort to promote the local artists and not get any response. So we've been pleasantly surprised that patients have been very appreciative and very vocal. I hear that from staff and from patients all the time. A little more uplifting, a little more friendly, more colorful, more inviting. I think what happens is they start reading one artist plaque, and then you see them transition to the next artist plaque and the next artist plaque, and then they'll make comments as they walk down the hall, or express appreciation or maybe a little emotion. We've had patients stop in and say that they appreciate how spiritually uplifting some of the art is. They appreciate the new look. They appreciate the color, the variation. Here's a painting we purchased from Lisa Louise Grill. It's called Balloons and Bubbles, and she did this painting specifically for this area. The area we're in is ophthalmology and ENT, and we get a mixture of age of patients. This is kind of a fun one to show playfulness. It's a little bit spiritual, and it shows some diversity as well. We feel that having the regional concept provides a natural connection point for our patients. Again, since we are such a regional-based provider, having regional artists really kind of ties us all together.
There are so many wonderful artists locally here, and I think there's a huge part of the population that's not aware of that. I think this is going to help a lot in exposing that fact that there are some wonderful artists right here locally. This is a great way for, for the whole community to be able to enjoy these pieces. I run into people all the time that I know that have mentioned that they saw my art at Olmsted Medical. It definitely gets word out to people that I'm an artist.
Rochester is not a big city, so having access to the market that is here really helps support artists in this part of Minnesota. It's very important. It is a great honor to be able to show our artwork at Olmsted Medical Center.
We have a series of 3 original watercolors from Clara Jane Schultz, and we like the softness as well as the color represented in these 3 pictures. They're also representative of kind of the southeastern Minnesota area, a little bit rural settings for those. Here's a series of 3 paintings done by Jane Balow, and she happened to show these to us, and we fell in love with them and thought they would be perfect for pediatrics. They're colorful, they're playful, they're interesting. I think our local art initiative is a work in progress. I mean, it's a continuation, it's definitely not done. We continue adding and refining and reviewing the spaces we have things placed in.
When I look at a piece of art that is really colorful and uplifting, it makes me happy, and so I think that anytime, and I am a firm believer that if you have a better mood, that you're going to be able to heal better. So I just really think that that's important in the healing process, is improving the moods of the patients, and I think the artwork really will help to do that.
troubles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me, somewhere over the rainbow. Bluebirds fly, birds fly over the rainbow. Why then, oh, why can't I? Somewhere over the rainbow, skies are blue, and the dreams that you dare to dream really do come true.
I'm a native of Iowa. It's a curse I've had to live with. I've always enjoyed conversation. My mother and I would visit old relatives, and I would end up sitting on the front porch talking to some old man and finding I didn't want to leave. And I think putting words on paper is a kind of conversation. I got married when I was 27 years old, and the children came soon afterwards. After a divorce, I was a single parent. The children and I, we bounced around to newspapers in southeast Iowa, Missouri, Wyoming, and in 1985 we moved here to become a regional editor. It was the year of the Hormel labor dispute, and it was an event that consumed a reporter's life. As a reporter, I had to juggle that parenting, but what a great job to do so. I mean, I could take my children to council meetings, and they could play in the back of the room while I was taking notes of a meeting going on up front. On election night, they could be swiping cookies and drinking punch while I'm, waiting for the votes to be counted. And so we were a team, whether they realized it or not. Summer of 1988, I was cruising the country roads going to a story, and it just dawned on me that, hey, I like it here. The strike is over. A sense of normalcy is returning to Austin. It's just going to be a matter of chasing the news, and this just seemed to be a perfect fit, like a pair of blue jeans and a flannel shirt. Mower County was where I wanted to raise my family. Plus, it was a heck of a place to report the news. My Lord, when I left the Austin Daily Herald, I was the last person to have worked there more than 7 years.
Lee was an experience. One of the first things I heard when I got here was he didn't like photographers.
Is Mike at a meeting or gone? Or
the first month was a little rough, but it didn't take us very long at all to get fairly close and to develop a really good friendship. He was never going to keep a secret from you, that he was going to tell you pretty much what he thought, when he thought it.
That's gross.
But he was always going to be straight with you, and I really appreciated that.
During cleanup this week, I got rid of a bank of files that were our morgue. I mean, pictures of prominent citizens, accident pictures, all of that. And that bothered me, and I complained. I became known for temper tantrums, and I think I logged a couple of good ones at that time here.
Everybody knew Lee. You couldn't go anywhere without someone saying, "Hey Lee, hi Lee, how you doing, Lee?"
So many people stop me on the street, call me at home, and on my way to a story tell me another story.
And I think that's what made him a really good journalist. He knew how to get those things, knew where to go, knew people, knew how they were.
I worked 24 years at the Herald. I've been a managing editor, but man, just being a gunslinger, a reporter that could come and go throughout Mower County, that really appealed to me. The Post Bulletin came to town in 2000, I believe, and they recruited me. And they penciled a sum of money on paper, which was more than I was making for the dear old Herald. And try as hard as I did to quit, because at that time I needed more money, I just couldn't leave the Herald. My loyalty always held true to the Austin Daily Herald. Now this may sound silly to mention Lee Bonorden and Kevin Garnett, the Timberwolves star player for so many years, in the same breath. But Mr. Garnett, he was loyal, he re-signed or signed an extension and remained there, and then in 2008 he moves on to the mighty Boston Celtics, and where he promptly wins a world championship. In a recent interview, Mr. Garnett, Kevin, was saying that, you know, loyalty comes with a price. If loyalty came with a price for me to remain here in Austin so long, at the prime of my creative years, it was a price I was willing to accept. Everything pales in comparison to the Hormel labor dispute and strike. I think that changed all of us. I mean, homicides certainly touch a reporter. In recent years, the Mower County Jail and Justice Center has moved up the totem pole too. Just such a huge story that the Mower County Fair, and the fact that it brought people from throughout the county to Austin for this week of hilarity and craziness, and the proliferation of wind energy in Mower County. I used to just get a kick to see those darn wind turbines whipping around over around Grand Meadow and Dexter.
Regrets, I've had a few.
An individual was arrested and charged with in connection with a series of convenience store robberies, and he had pled not guilty to the charges, and I blew it. I misquoted a former Mower County attorney saying that he had entered a plea of guilty to the crimes when he had not. The story appeared in the Herald, and of course it was all wrong. It was an egregious mistake, and I regret it to this day. In another early story, I reported local lawn enforcement announced today, lawn, L-A-W-N, here, I mean, that it still sounds funny. Pat Ober, the county attorney, wrote a hilarious letter to the editor about lawn enforcement. Pubic safety. Damn it all, I left the L out of public. And the editor didn't see it either. I mean, it appeared in print here. Oh, I still get razzed for that one here. I mean, just incredible. A bad mistake, but I mean, it's so bad, it's semi-hilarious. It happened in August 2001. I suffered a heart attack and got the helicopter ride to Rochester, and the heart attack destroyed blood vessels and capillaries feeding blood to the retina in the rear chambers of my eyes. I can't even find the channels there. I've had 6 eye surgeries, and now I suffer glaucoma. So, and the vision continues to diminish. The loss of vision was certainly one of the reasons that propelled me to retire when I did. I think it's made me concentrate more.
The press for a lot of things. In this case, I, for one, interviewed the Attorney General of the United States.
I listen more to radio than I have ever listened before. I can't read. I've got 3 or 4 magnifying glasses that I use. I live on the 8th floor. I enjoy listening to the sounds of life out there. Cars coming by, birds, and the wind rushing. I think to lose some of one sense forces you to fine-tune others. It must be comical to see me on a bike at a busy intersection because I do stop, look, and listen before I cross the street.
I'll state my case, of which I'm certain.
Yeah, I've been called a son of a bitch to my face, I'm sure many more times to my back, but most of the time people have talked to me and I have listened. We are recording history, whether it's a little old weekly newspaper, back home, or a op-ed piece in the New York Times. I think the act of presenting it should be a sacred responsibility. I think we're losing that. Celebrity news, I mean, my God, it's an industry unto itself. Whether Kim Kardashian's butt is bigger than Jennifer Lopez, I mean, why are we talking about that? I think it's a very slippery slope whether journalism can return to the higher place it held in people's minds years or decades ago because of all these external distractions. The definition of news has changed, widened, and even been diluted. The book is strictly a vanity thing to show my children and grandchildren what this old guy did for a living here, and maybe to those who might be interested to share a part of Austin history with them. A reporter involves him or herself in people's lives there, and I think that's a kind of sacred responsibility. Earn their trust and get the story right. And I feel privileged to have been able to do this, and now I want to pass it on. The book is a goal, but the vision is diminishing. It gets harder all the time to read anything. Originally, I wanted to do a top 100 list of stories and columns, and now I think the operative word is 20, the old top 20 list. So there's news about tragedies, murders, trials, the labor dispute, and heartwarming stories, funny stories. I have newspaper clippings, and they're getting yellowed and all. I check out a headline, it jogs my memory, and it gets harder and harder to read the whole thing, to find the good ones. I had better make it a priority to have them, put into a book while I can even see. At age 66, and I'm a great-grandfather, there's a 4th generation now. Family is important to me. I celebrated my 40th anniversary last year in journalism, but it's been an adequate life. I've been happy doing what I've done in life. I used to sit here, but yet, I'm still in that transition phase. I miss doing what I did. I will wonder what kind of a radio person I would have made, particularly in this era of talk radio, and people call me with stories or ideas, and I mean, I'll pass them on to the Herald. I've discovered some very interesting people and who have stories to share that just whets my appetite as a reporter. I wish I could tell them. I can't. But I will hold them in my heart or file them away as maybe a testament that I have been a pretty good listener in life.
It was my way.
That's it for now. But join us again next week for Off 90. Meanwhile, let us know what you think and tell us about any interesting people, places, or stories that you want to see here in the coming weeks. Then watch for the KSMQ crew out there, around your town, in our communities, along the back roads. Wherever arts, culture, and history can be found in southern Minnesota, that's where we'll be. But you can be sure we'll always be Off 90.
Funding for Off 90 is provided in part by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota.